this video, I will be going over the spaghetti man right there.
Okay, it's just a big, like a 3-foot model of the arteries and veins. If you look at the aortic arc, there's going to be 3 blood vessels that come off of it. From the right to left, you're going to have the Brachiocephalic artery, and you're going to have the left common carotid, which goes up to the brain, and then you have the left subclavian, which is going to go to the left arm. And the aorta is going to be divided into 3 parts. You have an ascending aorta that comes right off the heart. You have the aortic arc, which has those 3 blood vessels I just went over, the aortic arc. Then we have the descending aorta, which will go into more detail a little bit later on in terms of the arteries that come off the abdominal aorta. Stay up here, and let's go over here to the left common carotid. The left common carotid is going to go up and branch off into internal carotid, which is this one in green. See a little green sticker? And then the external carotid. The external carotid is going to go to the superficial temporal, okay? And then the internal carotid is going to go up to the circle of Willis, okay? Via the anterior pathway of the brain. The posterior pathway will be basically via the vertebral artery that's going to go to the basilar artery, and then eventually to the posterior circle of Willis. Okay, so that takes care of the arteries that are going up to the head. And let's go to the arteries that are going to the arm. Here we have the left subclavian artery, which is going to lead to the axillary artery, which is in the armpit, then down to the brachial artery, which is your arm or the humerus, and then the brachial artery will branch off into the radial artery, which is on your thumb side or the lateral side of your forearm. And immediately in the forearm, we have the ulnar artery. Then we have
the palmar plexus.
Okay, so let's go down now to the leg. Okay, so from the descending aorta, common iliac artery branches off into internal iliac artery and external iliac artery. And the external iliac artery is going to come down to the femoral artery, which eventually is going to go down further down the thigh. So you have the external iliac artery to femoral artery to popliteal artery, and then the popliteal artery branches off into anterior tibial artery and posterior tibial artery, and then branching off the posterior tibial artery is the peroneal artery or the fibular artery, which goes laterally on your leg. Okay.
And from there we have blood vessels in the foot called plantar plexus.
So that's going to take care of the arteries that go to the head, upper appendage, and lower appendage. Now the blood vessels that are here in the middle. So we'll start from the most superior one. There's a celiac trunk in here, and the celiac trunk is divided into 3 arteries. The 3 arteries are going to be the splenic artery, one that goes to the spleen, which is this brown one here. The left gastric artery, which goes around the stomach. And then we have the common hepatic artery, which goes up into the liver. Then the next set of arteries below the celiac trunk is going to be the superior mesenteric artery, which is going to be this one up here. And the superior mesenteric artery will give blood to all the small intestines and 2/3 of the large intestine, namely the ascending colon and transverse colon. Then we go from the superior mesenteric artery to the renal arteries, and the renal arteries are going to provide blood to the kidneys. And from the renal arteries, we go down to the gonadal arteries. Some very skinny arteries here, and here. And those are basically going to go to the ovaries of the female and the testes in the male. And our 5th artery that's in the abdominal aorta from superior to inferior is the inferior mesenteric artery. And the inferior mesenteric artery, right there, is going to provide blood to the remaining large intestine, which is the descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, and anus. Basically, that's it for the arteries of the head, arm, abdomen, and the lower limb. All right, so let's cross over now to the veins, shall we? Okay, so these arteries are going to provide blood, oxygen-rich blood, highly nutritious blood to the organs of the body. Now, those organs in exchange are going to drop off its carbon dioxide and its waste. So the carbon dioxide and waste is going to have to travel back via the venous system. Let's start with the veins in the leg. So the leg here, plantar plexus. Now the name of the arteries, the veins will be the same as the arteries. Like for example, you have the anterior tibial artery, so this is the anterior tibial vein. The posterior tibial artery, so this is the posterior tibial vein back here. Posterior tibial vein, this one. Okay. And then you have the peroneal artery, so this is the peroneal vein here. So pretty much the same thing. Now the difference is that in the venous system, we have a cooling system with our superficial veins. Okay, so our superficial veins, which are the veins that you're going to see pretty much on the superficial part of your skin, that's going to help cool the body. All right. So our superficial veins in our lower appendage is going to be the great saphenous vein, which goes all the way up and empties into the femoral vein. Okay, so it's like a turnpike, straight away blood vessel that goes straight up to the femoral vein. Here you have a small saphenous vein, okay, which is going to empty up into the popliteal vein here. Okay. So the superficial veins, great and small saphenous veins, and then you have the deep veins, which are the same name as the arteries. So the small saphenous vein and the deep veins are going to empty into the popliteal vein, to the femoral vein. The blood's going to go that direction to the femoral vein, to the external iliac vein, okay, which is going to join the internal iliac vein here, and together they're going to form the common iliac vein. Then the common iliac vein is going to go up to the inferior vena cava, which starts at your belly button and goes all the way up and dumps the blood into the right atrium of the heart. Let's do the blood vessels in the arm, the venous, the veins. Okay, so the veins are also going to have a superficial system to cool the arms and cool the blood. The superficial veins are going to be called, laterally here we have the cephalic vein right there. Then medially here we have the basilic vein. Basilic vein empties into, goes all the way up here to the axillary. Cephalic straight up, basilic straight up, all the way up to the axillary. And then here in the middle we're going to have the median antebrachial vein. The median antebrachial vein is going to empty into the median cubital vein where they draw blood. So those are the superficial veins, and they're going to eventually drain their blood into the axillary vein, which eventually takes the subclavian vein, the brachiocephalic vein, superior vena cava, and then the 14 steps of the heart. So those are your superficial veins. And the deep veins are going to be the radial vein, okay, which is the same name as the arteries. You have the radial artery, radial vein. Ulnar artery, ulnar vein. Brachial artery, brachial vein. So the same name, the deep veins, as the arteries. And then those veins are going to all converge, whether superficial or deep, into the axillary vein, subclavian vein, brachiocephalic vein, superior vena cava, and then the 14 steps of the heart. Okay, so we did our veins going from the legs up to the heart, the arms, the blood vessels going from the arms to the heart. Okay, and let's do the blood vessels in the abdomen, which are pretty much the same name as the blood vessels that we did earlier for the arteries. So here we have the inferior mesenteric vein, which is paired up with the inferior mesenteric artery. And the inferior mesenteric vein is going to take the blood, the inferior mesenteric vein is going to take the blood to the splenic vein, which is draining the spleen. Splenic vein is going to join the superior mesenteric vein, which is paired up with the superior mesenteric artery. So the splenic vein and superior mesenteric vein converge and become the hepatic portal vein, which will take a blood to the liver, which is this guy right here, and drop off those nutrients. And then the blood's going to come out here via the hepatic vein and join the inferior vena cava, which is going to dump the blood into the right atrium and join the blood that's coming from the superior vena cava of the arms. Okay? So the inferior vena cava is going to drain the blood from the digestive organs and the legs. The superior vena cava is going to drain everything on top, the arms and the head. Okay? So let's go to the head, shall we?
The superficial temporal vein
drain into the external jugular vein, which drains into the subclavian vein, which goes into the brachiocephalic vein, superior vena cava, and then 14 steps of the heart. And then we're missing the vertebral vein on this side. It's not on this model. And then we have the internal jugular vein. So the internal jugular vein is going to drain the brain. Drain the brain in the sense of the waste and the carbon dioxide from the brain is going to go to the internal jugular vein. Now on the left side here, we see the internal jugular vein, same function as the right, but here we can see the vertebral vein. And the vertebral vein is going to drain the blood from the posterior side of the brain, and then it's missing the external jugular vein. So from inner to outer, we have the internal jugular vein, the vertebral vein, and then the external jugular vein, which is missing. Internal jugular vein, vertebral vein is missing, external jugular vein. And there we can drain the blood that's in the head, and the blood is going to go to the superior vena cava and eventually to the heart. So the heart's going to pump out blood via arteries to the tissues, give it its nutrients and its oxygen, and in exchange, those tissues are going to drop off carbon dioxide and waste, travel back via veins, dump it off into the heart. The heart will go to the lungs, drop off the carbon dioxide, pick up the oxygen, come back to the left side of the heart, and pump that oxygen out via arteries out to the tissues. Okay, so I think I pretty much covered everything on this model with arteries and veins. All right, take care. Like and subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know. Bye.